This is how you beat inflation. You buy Bitcoin, you wait long enough for it to be higher than the price you pay for it, and then you use it to buy everything you need. All right, but I want to dig into the details of that because that sounds too simple and people don't really, don't really get that. Okay, so yesterday I was like, okay, I've been living for free for 3 years now. I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars for free, basically free money, because I'm spending the appreciation of Bitcoin. And the original Bitcoin that I started with for all of my living expenses back in late 2022 is worth more than twice as much as what it started in US dollars after spending literally hundreds of thousands of dollars over the last 3 years. Um, and the value is still more than twice what the balance started at. Okay, so I wanted to sort of find a way to really sort of condense what is going on with the Bitcoin price and why I am able to live for free. So the first thing I did is I loaded the entire price history of Bitcoin into ChatGPT. Everything, the highs, the lows, the starting price every day, the ending price every day, all of it. I loaded it all into ChatGPT and I told it to graph for me how many days the Bitcoin price had been within 10% of each $1,000 mark. So for $1,000, that means above or below $100. For $10,000, that means above or below $1,000. For 100,000, that means above and below $10,000. But to do that for every price, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,000, all the way to 125,000, because 124,000 is the highest it's ever been. And immediately when you graph that, first of all, one second, I wanted to really focus on the last 3 years when I've been living for free. And immediately what pops out at you is the graph that I've posted multiple times to Facebook over the last couple days, which is that there's sort of three price points that Bitcoin has spent more time within 10% of than any other time. That price point in 2023 was $28,000. That price point in 2024 was $64,000. And that price point so far in 2025 has been $107,000. Now, the reason it's helpful to think about it this way is because it's easy to get lost in the day to day up and down price action. People look at the price, they're like, but it's all over the place and it's up and it's down, without realizing that no, if you zoom out, it tends to spend quite a bit of time at certain levels and then other levels and then other levels. And in my opinion, we'll probably never see the other price levels ever again. We might never see 107,000 again. The question is, are you going to buy Bitcoin now so that when it comes up, when the price jumps to $150,000 and then spends, 7 or 8 months chilling up at that level? The question is, are you going to have Bitcoin that you bought now to spend then? Or are you going to wait and buy it at 150,000 and then have to wait 7 or 8 months before it goes to a new higher level? And again, my goal is always to say, look, buy it as soon as you can so that more of the upside in the future you benefit from. So how do you win in the game of inflation? Well, the government prints on average 7% more US dollars every year. That means not only are you getting 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9% inflation, but you're not benefiting from the fact that humans get better at making stuff literally every single passing day. So in a world where the government stopped printing new money and giving it to the cronies and the lobbyists and the Wall Street bankers and everybody who always gets the money first before the inflation hits, they get to buy stuff with the money before the inflation hits. You get to buy the stuff with the money after it's trickled through the economy after the inflation hits. So you get screwed. They get the benefit, you get screwed. And this has been going on for hundreds of years. Well, 100 and however many years since 1913 when the Federal Reserve was invented. This has been going on is they print new money, the cronies get it, they buy up a bunch of stuff before the prices go up, then the prices go up because they bought up a bunch of stuff, and then now you're stuck with higher prices. And that's the system. Okay, so the way to beat inflation is to hold money that is gaining value faster than the US dollar is losing value. That means you need to find an asset that grows consistently more than between 4% and 9% per year. That way, the prices might go up 5%, 4%, 7%, 9%. You don't care because the asset you're using to pay for stuff is going up faster than that. Therefore, you're actually buying things at a discount every year. Every passing year, you're buying things at a steeper and steeper discount, whereas everybody else in the world is buying things at a higher and higher price and getting screwed. So that's how you beat inflation. So if you accumulated Bitcoin in 2023, there is a greater probability that you accumulated that Bitcoin around $28,000 than any other price. Now, the early part of 2023 was actually cheaper than that. So if you were buying Bitcoin in early 2023, good for you. It was actually cheaper than 28,000. But for 7 solid months, it was within 10% of $28,000. And again, the reason I'm not using specifics is I don't want to build a strategy that says you have to buy Bitcoin at this exact time in 2023. I'm saying, no, this strategy works if you bought any Bitcoin at any time in 2023, for 7 months. And for a couple of additional months if you bought it cheaper than that. So that's like 8 or 9 or 10 months, 2023, that you could have bought Bitcoin anytime in there, and you're going to have a cost basis within 10% of the $28,000, which means you can spend that Bitcoin with at a radically appreciated price, which right now is 118,000. So you can buy Bitcoin you bought at 28 and you're buying stuff for, 118,000, and everything's like 60% off or whatever that is. It's like, actually, it's a lot bigger than that. It's like 100, I don't know, 74% off, 78% off. It's radically higher. So, but again, let's assume you missed 2023 and you didn't start buying Bitcoin until 2024. Well, the most likely range you bought Bitcoin in 2024 was within 10%, $6,400. That means within 6,400 of 64,000, which means to, what is that? 70,400, and as low as 57,600. If I'm doing the right math. Anyway, 6,400 above or below 64,000 within 10%. Again, and most people I know, that is when they bought it. Now, if you bought in early 2024, you bought a lot cheaper than that. Good for you. You're living at an even bigger discount. But you had 8 months, literally 8 months. You had 8 solid months where Bitcoin at some point during the day traded within 10% of $64,000. And if you were accumulating back then you can buy everything at a, more than a 50% discount, 52, 54, 58% discount, whatever that discount is from 118,000 down to 64,000. So you're living life at a serious radical discount. And the same will be true in the future. Now, Bitcoin always doesn't always go up in a straight line, right? It goes up and down on its way up, as I've said numerous times. So what do you do if Bitcoin enters a bear market, meaning it starts going down instead of, the answer is you just hold on to it instead of spending it. If the price is lower than the price you paid for it, you just hold on to it. So your finances need to be able to hold the ups and downs. But the reason this works with Bitcoin rather than any other asset is there's too great a risk with any other asset that it will go to zero, or that it will, the company will go bankrupt or whatever. Now, some people would say, yeah, but you can do this strategy with the S&P 500, which is like the broad index of the stock market. But the stock market itself as a whole does not go up more than 7, 8, 9% every year. And if it does go through, the stock market goes through a correction of its own, a bear market, a down market. Typically for the stock market, that lasts a long time. So you've got to be ready to ride out a multi-year or, significantly. If you were buying stocks at the peak in 2027, you were waiting a long time until those stocks were up and you could actually convert them, to US dollars and spend. So Bitcoin, one second here. Bitcoin doesn't have that problem because when it goes down, it recovers very quickly. And so you can just wait it out. And the price appreciation on the upside is radically higher than the price that is needed to combat inflation. So again, you just don't have the same problem you do with stocks as with Bitcoin, because Bitcoin's just much more consistent in its going up over time and it recovers much quicker. And the side of Bitcoin is so much radically higher. So the only way you can try to get the kind of upside you can get with Bitcoin, the only way to get that some other way is by betting on individual stocks. But that is extremely risky, because if you're buying Tesla or Amazon or Facebook or Google or what is it? Nvidia, or whatever the seventh one, that the Magnificent Seven, which is the seven highest performing stocks in the last decade or two. If you're trying to get upside by only buying one of those stocks, you risk it falling out of favor and your whole strategy blows up, and there's a high risk of that. If you're buying only the Magnificent Seven stocks, all of those stocks are at record high valuations, which means the price you pay for every dollar of earnings that the company makes, for every dollar of profit, the price you pay per of earnings is stratospherically high right now, meaning there's a very good chance that that will go through an adjustment and come way down, resulting in, once again, your strategy blowing up. So this strategy to beat inflation, you need an asset that almost certainly will go up in the long term and that is still early in the adoption cycle so that there's a huge amount of upside left for price appreciation. That asset is Bitcoin. For all the reasons I've covered in numerous videos, Bitcoin is not subject to being outcompeted or made obsolete the same way a technology is, the same way a stock is or a company is. Bitcoin does not have that same problem of going obsolete or being made obsolete or being, uh, something new, upgrading and disruptive innovation. Bitcoin just doesn't have that problem the way virtually every other stock or bond or real estate has. And it's early in the adoption cycle. So roughly 95% of the world owns zero Bitcoin. That means if you're buying Bitcoin now, you're benefiting from the adoption of Bitcoin by the other 95% of the world. Again, there's just no other asset like that. The vast majority of people that are ever going to own stock in the stock market own some stock already. And the vast majority of people who are going to own a lot of a certain kind of stock or a certain asset of stock, most of those already do. You're not early to Tesla. You're not early to Apple. You're not early to Amazon. You're not early to any of those. By the time a company goes public on the stock market, often a lot of the early gains are past it. And, you're competing with Wall Street. Bitcoin is the one way you can front run Wall Street because it's an asset that got adopted by individuals before Wall Street. And the vast majority of Wall Street has still not adopted Bitcoin. The vast majority of nation states have not adopted Bitcoin. The vast majority of Bitcoin adoption in the world is yet to come, which means Bitcoin should, over time, it will go up and down on its way up. But if you are patient, you have the ability to buy Bitcoin today at $118,000 and spend it in the future at 150 or 220. Or if you wait long enough, multiple years, 350,000, something like that. And essentially, instead of the entire rest of the world being gouged by inflation, government money printing, the government printing, like the Federal Reserve decided yesterday, they're going to print even more money. They lowered interest rates. So it means the way they lower interest rates is by printing even more money, which causes inflation. And inflation is already above 3% by government measures and somewhere between, 5 and 9% by more realistic, legit measures of what's happening in the economy. So you got to beat that. Otherwise, you're moving backwards. And almost nobody's getting a 9% pay raise every year at work, which means you've got to put your money in an asset that's beating inflation consistently. And Bitcoin is the most reliable, solid way to do that. So as always, this is not financial advice, not legal advice, not accounting advice, not investment advice, not any kind of advice. This is just me living for free for the last 3 years, spending thousands of hours studying Bitcoin, trying to find a solution for inflation myself, and trying to find a solution that would give me financial freedom and independence. And it's Bitcoin. And it's still very early in the adoption cycle of Bitcoin. And if you feel like you're late to Bitcoin, literally everyone who's ever bought Bitcoin has felt like they were late to Bitcoin. Like everybody has felt like they're late to Bitcoin. You are not late to Bitcoin. 95% of the world owns zero Bitcoin. And the vast majority of the other 5% who own some Bitcoin, it's $50, $200. It's not enough to matter. There's very, 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 very few people in the world like me who have literally 100% of my liquid assets in Bitcoin. 100%. And I worked my way out from 0% in 2017 to 100% earlier this year, in April of this year, when I finally decided to convert the last 1% of my stock portfolio into Bitcoin. I had already converted all of my savings, all of my investments, all of my 401k, all of my IRA. Everything's in Bitcoin for liquid assets that I have. Uh, it's all Bitcoin. And it's all Bitcoin because I've spent thousands of hours studying Bitcoin. And my conviction level is it's the only kind of money in the world that nobody can make more of. It's the only kind of money that nobody can manipulate. There will only ever be 21 million Bitcoin ever in the world, ever. There will only ever be 21 million Bitcoin. And however many of those 21 million Bitcoin or fractions of one you can get right now lets you spend that Bitcoin for the rest of your life or whenever you want to spend it. You can wait and it goes up 50% and you spend it then and everything's 33% off. Or you can wait much longer and buy everything when it's 50% off. Or you can save Bitcoin right now. You can buy a little piece of the Bitcoin. You can buy $1 of Bitcoin and it'll probably be worth $20 or $100 when you retire. which is a massive upside, which is why you need to buy more than $1 because even if it goes up 20, 30, 50x, you have to have enough to matter. By the math, if you want to double your liquid net worth in 10 years, assuming Bitcoin goes up by a factor of 10, if you want to double your entire liquid net worth, meaning, or let's just call it net worth, your assets, you need 11% of your net worth in Bitcoin. If you want to triple all of your net worth, assuming everything stays the same and Bitcoin goes up by a factor of 10, if you want to triple it, you need 22% of your assets in Bitcoin. If you want to quadruple it, you need 33% of your assets in Bitcoin. Now, if you want your net worth to go up by a factor of 10, when Bitcoin goes up by a factor of 10, well, then you got to be where I am, which is 100% Bitcoin, because if you're 100% Bitcoin and it goes up, 1,000%, well, then you're up 1,000%, which is 10x. So I continue to believe that now is a great time to buy Bitcoin. I've done the research. Could I be wrong? Yes, everybody can be wrong, but I really don't think I am. And talk about money where your mouth is. I got 100% in Bitcoin. I live on Bitcoin. Everything I buy with a Coinbase debit card, which converts my Bitcoin into the local currency. So whether that's Honduran lempira or euros in Europe or Japanese yen, wherever I happen to be, when I use that Coinbase debit card, it converts Bitcoin to the local currency, and I can buy anything I want at whatever the current exchange rate is for Bitcoin in the world. And Bitcoin has a floating exchange rate in every single currency around the world. It's completely liquid, meaning you can buy an unlimited amount of stuff and you're not going to move the price of Bitcoin. It's just amazing. It's an amazing technology. You can store it for safety out of the hands of, hackers and scammers in Bitkey, Bitkey, which I'm constantly posting about. Like, all of these things are at your fingertips. It's amazing, amazing, amazing technology. And if I were you, I'd buy as much as I can. I mean, that's what I've already done. That's what I would do. That's what I have done. It's working great for me. And I think it will continue to work great for a very long time in the future. So, here to serve. Send me questions. Happy to answer anything. And have a great day, everyone. Thanks.